Good evening, everyone. I am very, very happy to be with you tonight at this regular board meeting. And we are going to begin, as we always do, with the pledge. It will be offered by Julie Simons, who is a student at River Road Middle School. So would you please rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take this moment for a moment of silence, please. And with that, we'll have a roll call from Ms. Sawyer.
Sharon Warden.
Here.
Pam Pereza.
Here.
Rodney Walton.
Here.
Daniel Spence.
Here.
Dr. Sheila Williams. George Archuleta.
Here.
Miss Virginia Houston. Okay. Thank you, Miss Warden. Miss Houston is not on at the moment, but she was, so I will check with her.
Okay, she is next on the agenda.
Yeah, she's here, Tammy. She's on.
I'm
Okay.
on. Oh, I
Okay.
bet you can see me. Let me do that. Okay, is that better?
Thank you, Miss Houston.
Okay.
Ms. Houston, can you offer the ethics awareness statement at this time, please?
Yes, I can. Welcome to this meeting of the Elizabeth City Pasquotank County Board of Education. It is my duty to remind members of this board that it is your responsibility to avoid all conflicts of interest and potential conflicts of interest in accordance with Chapter 138A of North Carolina General Statutes. As public servants, it is our duty to continually monitor, evaluate, and manage our personal, financial, and professional affairs in such a way as to ensure the absence of conflicts or potential conflicts. Does any member know of any conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before the board this evening? Let the record reflect that no conflicts exist.
Thank you, Ms. Houston. And now I am going to offer a motion to approve tonight's agenda. And I from the floor.
Motion to approve to next.
Okay, I've had a motion.
Second.
A roll call, please.
Pam Pereza.
Yes.
Rodney Walton.
Yes.
Daniel Spence.
Yes.
Sheila Williams. Okay. George Archuleta.
Yes.
Miss Virginia Houston.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. And it is my honor and pleasure to call on Interim Superintendent James Davis for her superintendent report. Ms. James Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair and board members, members of our community and our colleagues. I'm going to start by giving you an update on our return to campus phase 2 update. All right, so the slide that you're looking at here, this is a slide to show you the number of students we've had to return in this current phase that we're in, and we're calling this phase 2. And those students returned to phase 2 began on April the 12th, the Monday after we returned from our Easter break. And just to show you, in the left column, you'll see the name of the school. That middle column will tell you the number of students that we had prior to them returning on April the 12th. And then the last column is the number of students returning, that how much we've increased, how many more students we're seeing in person. So for instance, Central, prior to phase 2 beginning, and that was when we came back from Easter break, they had 149 students in the building for face-to-face instruction. But after April the 12th, or on April the 12th, they now have 207 students. And you can see they increased by approximately 58 students by having going to a Plan A. J.C. Sawyer, they increased from 178 students to now they have 247 students. Northside Elementary, they have 237. They had 237, and they've increased their numbers by about 100 to 337. P.W. Moore had 170 students, and they increased to 230. Pasquotank Elementary, they had 133, and they increased to 182. Sheep Harney had 141 attending prior to April the 12th, and now they have 226 in attendance daily. Weeksville Elementary had 139 prior to April the 12th, and now they have 171. Our pre-K numbers increased from 75 to 93 after we returned from our Easter break. Those were our elementary numbers. You can proceed. Okay, yep, see. So then we have, you can see our middle school and high school numbers. At ECMS, prior to April the 12th, they had 235 students, and they increased their numbers by about 130 to 365 students who are now attending face-to-face. River Road Middle School had 269, and they increased to 363 students. For our high schools, we have at our Elizabeth City Pasquotank Early College, they went from 30 who attended prior to the April 12th date to 35. Northeastern High School had 165, and that was increased to 194 students. Pasquotank County High School went from 145 students to now they have about 181 students attending daily. Any questions about those numbers before I move on? All right, so then we're going to continue with some of our end of the year events updates. Well, we're still making some plans for our end of year events, such as our prom and graduations, and I'll give it with the caveat of understanding that if some guidance change, and we are expecting some per the health department when they were looking at some of the plans, I think the governor is going to come out with some a new order at some time. So as soon as that happens, If we need to change the plans, we will be prepared to do so. So for now, Northeastern and Pasquotank are planning on having a prom, and both of those proms are scheduled for May the 15th. Both events will, the early college will not hold a prom this year. Both events will take place at Northeastern and Pasquotank County High School from 6 o'clock to 8:30 p.m. And the events will be outside with indoor plans in case there's some inclement weather. Physical distancing and face coverings will be required. Principals will share information with students and parents, hopefully sometime this week, as early as probably tomorrow.
Ms. James Davis,
Yes, sir.
for the students who are attending the early college, since they're not having a prom, would they be eligible to go to the prom of the school that they are zoned for if they were going to one of the high schools, Pasquotank or Northeastern?
They are no longer students of that school, and we had not talked. I mean, they were willing to have one. I just think the students didn't want to have one, is my understanding.
Okay.
But I don't mind having more conversations with Mrs. Fife to make sure that I had the correct understanding. Tammy, do you remember what those conversations were for the early college?
Yes, Ms. James Davis. They only had, I think, 6 students that willing to even consider a prom under the regulations that we have to follow.
Okay. All right.
Is that 6 students who wanted to attend, or just 6 students who were eligible to attend?
I believe there were 6 students who wanted to attend.
So could there be well, you said there's gonna be more discussion, but could there be an accommodation made for those 6 students so they wouldn't miss out on this opportunity?
Well, I'll have a conversation with Principal Fife, but again, now the early college is their school.
Right.
And so but I'll have a conversation, and then, with whoever that other school could be. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like, because again, early college is their school, but I'll
Okay.
have some conversations.
All right, that's fine. If we could just discuss it further, just so they wouldn't be excluded, I guess is my question. If it was
Right.
an opportunity for them to attend.
Okay. Yep, don't mind talking with her about that.
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, so going on to graduations, both Northeastern High School and Pasquotank County High School will hold traditional graduation ceremonies. Pasquotank's is scheduled to be on June the 4th with a rain date of June the 7th. Northeastern High School graduation is planned for June the 5th with a rain date of June the 8th. The early college graduation is going to be indoors with, they have 33 students who are graduating, and that is going to be on May the 22nd. Because it's inside, they don't have a rain date. At Pasquotank and Northeastern, the events will be held on the football fields, and we will still have to follow capacity guidance given for holding those types of events. Physical distancing and face coverings will be required, and principals will share information with students and their families sometime this week. And if you can recall that I say the health department did make us aware that there's supposed to be, the governor may update some guidance by the time that it's time for graduations. And if that happens, and if they loosen some of our restrictions that schools have to follow, we will get that information to families after updating those plans. Okay. Now, for our Teacher of the Year update for our 2021-2022 Teachers of the Year. Congratulations to our following teacher district finalists for 2021-2022. We have Mrs. Sarah Bynum, and she's at, oh my gosh, Northeastern? Am I right?
Yes.
And then, yes, then Mrs. Dana Hawley, she is from Pasquotank Elementary School. And then we have Mrs. Christy Williams, and Christy is at P.W. Moore. Help me with that last name.
River Road.
River Road, I'm sorry, yes, River Road Middle School. So again, Ms. Sarah Bynum, Ms. Dana Hawley, and Ms. Christy Williams, congratulations to you. And we're gonna give you all an air clap. Congratulations to the fine job that you've done to get this far. Hopefully, though the District Teacher of the Year will be announced sometime in May. And thank you. Those were the updates. I do have to say, you know, congrats. Was successful in their second round playoffs on Saturday. I know our tennis team was in a tournament today, but I have not gotten any updates on how any of those students did. I also, going back to the football team, I just want to publicly say a huge thank you to not just the congratulations to the students, and a huge thank you to the coaches, and a huge shout out to Mr. Nixon. I cannot tell you the number of hours he was on the phone after he got a call from we got a call from the commissioner from the North Carolina High School Athletics Association, asking, because of the events that's happening in the city, if we can move Friday's night game. He made several phone calls, and those calls, you know, went well into started in the morning and went well into the late evening. So a huge shout out to Mr. Ronald Nixon, who is doing a great job. And also, I want to personally thank Dr. William Wright over in Hertford County, who agreed to let the football team have that game there so that they could have that playoff game. And so I can't thank them, and as well as the principal at the school where we played, as well as the AD who assists Mr. Nixon in getting everything ready. So that concludes my superintendent's report. Any questions? Thank you all.
I had a question about the early college graduation. It's going to be held at COA's auditorium, correct?
That is correct. It will be inside at the
Okay.
auditorium. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Question.
All right. Any other questions or discussions for Ms.? Okay.
I do real quick for the high school graduations. Is there a number yet that they're going to allow to participate? I know you said there's the COVID guidelines and all that, but do you have any idea what the numbers are that parents will allow to go, tickets that students will allow?
I'm not sure of that yet, so that the schools will share that with the families. And that'll be based on whatever the capacity those schools can hold.
Will board members be allowed to attend any of those ceremonies?
Yes, we'll share those plans, but absolutely. And right now, the guidance that we're given, even though it hasn't happened yet, again, that the governor may be lessening some of those restrictions. And so if he lessens them, then we'll of course be able to have more people. And so that's what we're thinking is going to happen. So as soon as that happens, you know, the principals will be given that information, and then they'll update their plans. And so of course then, you know, especially being outside, then more people will be able to attend as well. Okay. Any more questions? All right. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. James Davis. Now we're going to move along, and I need a motion from the floor to approve the minutes for March 22nd, 26th, April 19th, April 21st. And also we'll need a second.
Chair Warden, I move to approve
the minutes for March 22nd, March 26th, April 19th, and April 21st, 2021.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. May I have a roll call vote? Ms. Sawyer?
Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes,
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Ms. Virginia Houston.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Sawyer, at this time, do we have any comments from the public to be
Yes,
shared in our forum?
Yes, ma'am, we do. So our first comment comes from Ginger Hurdle, and I will share now. As I look back, it is hard to believe I dropped my youngest son, Sim, off at J.C. Sawyer in August 2007. Through the years, his dad and I, along with his grandparents, have attended many sporting events, awards banquets, field days, field trips, and school events. These are all special memories that we hold close to our heart. As Sim was in the spring of his junior year, COVID hit, and we were all faced with a situation that was like nothing we have ever had to deal with. Unprecedented times were upon us, and life as we knew it seemed to pause. As his senior year started, it began with virtual learning as the norm and no fall sports. As we moved into January, sports were able to begin at Northeastern High School, and it felt a little bit of normalcy was returning for our kids. Now we are at the end of April, and while neighboring school systems are planning for end-of-year activities, unfortunately it seems our seniors and their families have very little information regarding activities that make your senior year special. As of the writing of this letter, Sunday, April 25th, no plans for prom at NHS have been announced. Remember, these seniors also did not have a junior prom, so they could possibly never have the opportunity to attend a high school prom. To add to that frustration, proms are being held outside in Perquimans and Camden, and those plans were announced to parents 4 to 6 weeks ago. As well as information was recently shared in the Daily Advance article on April 24th, yet ECPPS was not mentioned at all. Why do we have no prom or other information? Also, there have been no announcements regarding senior awards, but I was told the awards will be held in a virtual ceremony. Our kids have worked 13 years for this time in their life, and they deserve to be recognized at an in-person ceremony with their family and friends. If we can hold sporting events with 50 to 1,000 attendees, which I am in complete favor of, we should be able to hold a senior awards banquet in person. It, of course, will require more attention to detail and planning, but our students deserve to be recognized for their accomplishments. I have no doubt our high school teachers and administrators would be willing to do this for their students. Also, no athletic banquet plans have been announced. Previously, these events were held 3 times a year, yet we once again have no information. For some of our students, athletics and coaches are the reason that they have stayed on track in school and have been the most positive influence in their life. Please do not take this away from them. Regarding graduation, we have received a notification that it is being worked on. I would ask that we think outside the box and look at what neighboring counties have done with success to enable greater attendance numbers. For instance, using space on the football field and both sides of our bleachers. As of April 23rd, 2021, there were only 38 current COVID cases in Pasquotank County. Let's plan activities and give our kids what they deserve. As parents, we understand the risk we take when we attend events and allow our children to participate in sports and events. Let's be safe, but let's return to some form of normalcy. We've had enough virtual. We need to get back to life in person. Our kids deserve a few memories from their senior year that are not virtual. I have discussed my concerns with Dr. Saul and have been told all items are being worked on. It is my understanding that all plans have to be approved by central office. I would ask that instead of going back and forth with plans require revisions, that central administration meet with NHS school officials and make decisions so events can be planned and details can be sent out to families so families can make plans to attend. If we continue to go back and forth with plans being submitted and requesting changes, we will then be at the end of the school year. I understand that our school board is not involved in the daily decision process, but I wanted you to be aware of the frustration parents and students are feeling. As our elected officials, I respectfully request that you ask central administration why we have very little, if any, information, and why do certain events still have to remain virtual. Please help us and ask questions. Kind regards, Ginger Hurdle. One more. From Jill Malo. I am writing today to voice my concerns on this year's events at ECPPS. Maybe I should say the lack of events. My daughter is a senior at Northeastern High School. Everyone has had a rough time since COVID invaded our society. Even so, it is up to the leaders of this community and district to step up and lead. Now that we are to be getting back to normal, whatever that seems to be, we need to have better communication than ever at our schools. They have failed tremendously. Communication in the high schools is in particular, because we are trying to prepare our students to go out into the world. This means outside of our little bubble of Elizabeth City. We have had little to no communication since returning back to school. It is now the end of April, and we still do not know anything about end-of-year activities. We did get one survey about graduation, but that is it. We have not heard a word about the details of the graduation, how many tickets each student gets, will there be a baccalaureate ceremony, any senior awards or sports banquets, a prom, nothing. We do certainly get emails about the canceling of class or working remote. Why is it that the only communication we receive is the negative and the cancellation of planned events like sports practices and games? The district is on point about these communication, but it falls silent when it comes to the upcoming celebratory events of our kids going off into the world. They have accomplished a huge milestone and it falls on silent ears. We need to do more for these kids, step up to the plate and celebrate them, lift them up and let them know that we see them and are proud of all they have overcome. Time for change is long overdue. It needs to start today. Thank you for your time. That is all, Ms. Warden. Ms. James Davis, did you have anything?
Okay, thank you. Okay,
I'm
now we
sorry.
need
Yes.
to have a motion.
So Chair Warden, I'm sorry. I was trying to find this little mic thing down here.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I do have some communication that was shared with me and was asked if I would share it to the board. So I would just go ahead and do that at this time, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Certainly.
So this is from Christy. The email is from Christy Hornthal. But because it starts out, dear classmate, this is from her husband, Phil Hornthal. And so it has, dear classmates, I hope you are well and I appreciate you stepping up to the void left by your predecessor's decision to head west of 95. Your love and devotion to our school system is evident. I am writing this email for a couple of reasons. First, I would like to renew our plea from last summer that we brought to your predecessor and her former school board to reinstate valedictorian and salutatorian at Northeastern High School. We are the only district in the area that killed this wonderful tradition. Although I was not close to receiving either of those honorariums for our class of 1985, I was so proud to watch Angela Gray and Tori Morehard to be rewarded for their hard work and be allowed to speak to all of us at graduation. Sorry. It was an inspiration to us all to do better and to give our best. There is simply no reason for this program not to be reinstated. I am also writing to ask for more transparency and information concerning graduation, prom, and senior and athletic awards. Given the extremely positive trends and situations concerning COVID in our area, there is simply no reason not to allow these activities to take place, and the lack of information to parents and students about where the board stands on these issues is not helpful. I hope we will receive some information on these issues at the next meeting. The seniors will not get another chance to experience these special events. There's simply no reason for another senior class to miss out. Ms. Davis, I'm proud of you and know you will take my concerns to the board. your classmate, Philip Hornthal. And then he gives the class. And that's it. That's what I needed to share.
Thank
Chair-
you,
Chair
Ms.
Warden,
James
can I-
Davis.
Can I ask a question in regard to a couple of these things?
Sure.
Since the common trend, we've already addressed prom, you already addressed graduation dates. You said that we're going to hopefully, I know the governor mentioned lifting some restrictions by June 1, but they will know how many tickets they have as of right now based on the capacity of those stadiums, correct? You're on mute, or somebody's muted.
James Davis.
Me, sorry. Yes, they will get that information when their schools share that information with them, and that will be sometime this week, as early as tomorrow, I'm assuming. But I know it will be sometime this week when they share that with them.
And I know that Tammy, you had provided some information about the scholar event. Is that right? Senior scholar event. But at the school, that's different because that was the event where they recognize a teacher, correct?
Right,
That has made it happen.
that's a district event that we do for the high schools, but the senior events and such, that's a school level, those are school level events, yes.
And have we had any communication about those things? I know those are school level, but do they know they're able to do those, or that's okay?
Yes, conversations have been held regarding some of their events. I got one planned today from one of the schools. However, one of the band programs has been working on their plan since last week to do an in-person event for recognizing their seniors. So they are working on their plans.
Okay. And then the other, can you clarify for me, as we have talked about this before with valedictorian and salutatorian, is there a policy that governs it, or is that a school decision?
James Davis.
Do you mind repeating that?
So the other thing, it sounds like the other items that were in all three of the letters were kind of addressed, as far as prom ceremonies, things like that. Maybe award ceremonies are in the works. But my question was about valedictorian and salutatorian. It's been so long since this was brought, this last year, but if you could, can someone refresh me on that? Is that a school decision, or is that a policy?
That was something that the previous administration had brought to the board, and that was something that I'm not sure at that time if that was board approval, but I think that was a change of policy, if I'm not mistaken.
Anyone else know for sure?
I have a point of order. Normally during when there are public comments that are offered, we do not entertain those at the time. We do look at trying to put those forward on an agenda. And as far as the valedictorian, salutatorian issue, that was developed as a policy for and presented for our school system, but that is something that can be placed on the committee agenda for next time for our discussion.
That was my next question, was if that's the case, then when could we discuss that? It's been brought to
Yeah,
us
we can
2 or 3
we
years in a
can
row.
put that on the committee agenda for May, for the May committee for discussion. And at that time, I would suggest that, well, as board chair, I will forward the information about that to the members so you can begin looking at that. So you can kind of be prepared for our discussion as we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
That'll give us enough time to make a decision if we need to make a decision as well, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Are there any other questions or concerns? Okay, moving on, we need to take action on the consent agenda items that were brought forward from the committee meeting. So I need a motion from the floor to accept those agenda items and a second.
I'll make the motion that we approve from the consent agenda FBT-02 technology surplus, FBT-03, the budget amendments number 107, 204, 307, 403, and 806, FTB-04 quote for scholastic books, and FBT-05 2021-2022 local current expense report proposed budget.
Okay, there has been a motion to accept these consent items. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We need a roll call vote if there is no discussion about any of these items at this time. Tammy, can you offer a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Pam Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams, Mr. Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston. Yes, I see you, Ms. Houston. Thank you.
Okay, I was muted.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the financial committee, and we have an item on that agenda for approval, and that's a fundraiser, the fundraisers that were offered in your packet. Are there any questions about those? Ms. Haynes is online with us. If you do have any questions, you can direct those to her at this time. If there are no questions and no discussion, then I need a motion to accept those items for approval and a second.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the fundraising request.
Thank you, Ms. Houston. A second, please.
Second.
Ms. Sawyer, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Pam Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams, George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Sawyer. Now we're going to move on to personalized education, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Pereza. Ms. Pereza?
Pereza, you're muted.
Sorry, I switched over too fast. We're going to have Dr. Amy Spencer to present about the summer school plan.
Warden, Madam James Davis, board members, colleagues, and community members. I come before you this evening to discuss the School Extension Learning Recovery and Enrichment Program, attachment PE-01, as mandated by Session Law 2021-7, House Bill 82. This also integrates the Summer Reading Camp, which is a component of Session Law 2021-8, Senate Bill 387. Both were signed into law on April 9th, 2021. This summer program reflects the work of the team who began preparation months ago in preparation for the passing of this legislation. So I'm going to give you a brief overview. So this Session Law 2021-7 mandates that each district develop a plan for a summer learning program. So as you can see, the WHO is all of the local school administrative units across the state. It is a summer extension and enrichment program. It has to occur after the last instructional day of the 2020-21 school year, and it has to end prior to the first day of the 21-22 school year. It must include 150 instructional hours or 30 days. The instructional time shall not include time for lunch, transition periods, and the required period of physical activity. Additionally, the instruction shall not be delivered on Saturdays. And this is all to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19 on at-risk students. So the second component that we will integrate into the Summer Enrichment and Learning Program is Session Law 2021-8, or Senate Bill 387. And this is a requirement for all local school administrative units, and it's the Summer Reading Camp. This also has to occur outside of the instructional calendar, and it is to ensure that we have statewide reading proficiency by third grade. And Reading Camp means an additional education program that is outside of the instructional calendar provided by the local school administrative unit. It's a literacy intervention that has to be offered to any third grade student who does not demonstrate reading proficiency, any second grade student who demonstrates difficulty with reading development, and any local school administrative units may offer this reading camp as this literacy intervention to any first grade student who demonstrates difficulty with reading development as well. Parents or guardians of the student offered a reading camp as a literacy intervention shall make the final decision regarding the student's reading camp attendance, so it is not required. It has to include 72 hours of reading instruction. So what I've done next is broken down the law by grade levels. So we're going back to the Summer Enrichment Program, Session Law 2021-7. So for students in kindergarten through third grade, it must have in-person instruction in the following: reading and math, K3, and then science, third grade. They have to have the integration of the local school administrative unit's reading camp, and we have to have at least one enrichment activity and a physical activity. Next slide, please. For students in 4th through 8th grade, we have to have in-person instruction in the following: reading, math, and science. And again, at least one enrichment activity, and then also a physical activity. Next slide, please. For high school students, we must have in-person instruction in end-of-course subjects. We need to have access to modules and teacher support for credit recovery courses necessary to meet graduation requirements. And we have to have in-person instruction for an elective course. Next slide, please. The additional requirements in this legislation: we must provide transportation, meals. We also must include individual and small group instruction, social and emotional learning activities, and then to incentivize that we have high quality teachers, there is bonuses that are written into the legislation. And those bonuses are a signing bonus of at least $1,200 to any teacher who meets the following criteria: that they have received a past teaching bonus for reading in grades 3, 4, and 5, who have received a past teaching bonus for mathematics in grades 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, or a teacher who has received National Board for Professional Teaching Standards certification. This program plan must be submitted no later than 30 days prior to the last instructional day for students in the 2020-21 school year, which is why we are presenting it this evening. So if you would go to the template, please. The template that you have has been revised from the document as we continue to receive updates and guidance from the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. The most current information was received this afternoon in a meeting held by Ms. Barber and Dr. Marr, who are leading the department at North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and they all are overseeing, the school extension, learning, recovery, and enrichment program. The template that I'm sharing this evening reflects minor changes in the K-3 schedule to ensure we have the 72 hours for compliance with the Session Law 2021-8. And additionally, we have made an adjustment to the incentives for teachers. So we're just going to briefly go through this. We are requesting that we do the 150 hours Monday through Thursday through the hours of 8 to 4. And we want to begin June 14th and July 22nd and having off on that Monday, July 5th. We did this because we also know that the teachers are tired, and the students and parents are also tired, and we wanted to be able to provide the education for the students, but we also wanted to ensure that they did have some summer as well. And so we felt by doing 4 days a week for those 8 hours a day, that would allow us to be able to provide the amount of time that is required by the legislation, but it would also give families and teachers 3-day weekends, and then with the 4th of July weekend being 4 days. Additionally, it would give some time after school letting out and a week before it would start for teachers, and then also provide the space and time after the program ended so that teachers and families would have some time to be able to do some activities for the summer as well. The template that you have been provided is actually the questions that are in the Qualtrics survey that I have to submit. And so we have to indicate by checking the box of the program that we will include. So we are assuring that we will have math instruction K-8, reading K-8, the science 3rd through 8th, a period of physical activity and enrichment activity, meal services, social and emotional learning supports, and transportation. We do not have to have at this time the budget plan, compensation plan, attendance policy, and records, but upon request from the state, we will be able to provide that. Additionally, we are integrating the Read to Achieve reading camp. We also, as a caveat, are going to have the extended school year for exceptional children during the same time, and try to also incorporate the AIG camps as well. Additionally, if you will go down, this is where the change is in the template from the document that you have in your link on the agenda. And what we did is we just wanted to make sure that we got the in the K-3, the reading instruction for the amount of time to reflect the 72 hours as required by the other legislation, Session Law 2021-8. And so you can see that in the morning, we have made that adjustment to ensure that they receive that time. Additionally, we are providing the supports, and I provided a little bit more information as far as what we would be providing for the social and emotional learning activities. And then we also added the asterisk at the bottom where it says, in the event that there's a need to quarantine due to COVID-19, we still want to make sure that the students have access to learning materials so that they do not miss out. And then if you go down and look, they are not asking for the teacher-student ratio and those things. And that is good because we need to provide the information to the parents. The letter is going to be mailed to them, inviting their students based off of the legislation. And we also want then to post our postings internally for our teachers first. And then based off of the number of students that reply will indicate how many teachers are hired. So if you go down, you can also see that we are hiring, again, for the 150 hours for the grades 9 through 12. Theirs was a little bit different. They did not require all of the things that K-8 does. We just need to ensure that there is access to 150 hours of instruction. So as you can see, we're going to do it in the EOC classes. We also have access to the credit recovery modules, and they will have access to an elective course. Again, we will have the budget and compensation plan, and the schedule is below. If you would continue down. And so if you would stop right there. And then just knowing that the students were selected based off of the benchmark assessment data, grades, diagnostic assessments, teacher recommendation, and attendance. Additionally, the third grade students for the reading camp will be determined through the end of grade test and also the Read to Achieve assessment. And then if you go down to number 11, this is where we have changed the compensation or the incentivizing for the teachers. What we wanted to do is ensure that we did not have any unintended consequences based off of achievement. And so what we did is, instead of saying an additional bonus for teachers who had students that were at that achievement level, we wanted to recognize growth, which would be determined by a matrix that our team would develop. If you would go down just a little bit further. We are going to use iReady. That was recommended by DPI. We are very fortunate because that is the assessment that we are most familiar with. So this will not be anything new for our teachers or our students. And this was shared with us on Friday in our regional meetings. Year-round schools do not apply to us. And then if you go down a little bit further, that is optional information. And what we are hoping to do for our enrichment activities is to pull in some of our community partners and have them come in and provide some of those things. And we've been brainstorming what that could potentially look like. And that will be based off of the availability of those partners. So we've talked about the Extension Office and the Coastal Federation and providing those STEM activities and things that would make it more enjoyable in the afternoons with those enrichment activities, and where the students would actually be able to apply and see how their instruction during the morning and early afternoon would complement and work with those enrichment activities. So that concludes my presentation.
Do you have just a guesstimate of how many teachers you feel are going to be willing to participate in this opportunity?
We do not have it at this time, no. We've had feelers out, and I'm going to be quite frank that the teachers are tired. And this is not a district wide problem. This is a statewide problem. And that's why the incentives have been put into place. I know that in some of the regional meetings that I've had, districts have been struggling to get the teachers to be able to participate.
Dr. Spencer, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You talked about the incentives and bonuses for teachers. I know sometimes in the past, you've noticed that many students who really, really need that extra support during the summer don't necessarily take advantage of it. And that's been a concern because, again, it's not a requirement. So have you thought of any incentives perhaps that could be, I don't mean bribery, but something that could be an incentive to get the students or to encourage the parents to have their children come?
Right. So we've written a letter that we want to be able to mail out to all of those who, you know, are eligible for the participation in the program. But that's where those community partnerships are so important, because I think our students need to see that their learning is fun. It's not all about tests. And so providing those opportunities for the students where they can make some things and do some hands-on activities and things. So it's more like a camp and not necessarily just, you know, school for summer as well. So they can have those opportunities. COVID has made it a little bit unique and different, because we do have to be careful as far as who we have come into the building. And I know right now we have essential personnel only. And we would like to be able to open that up to be able to have that community partner be able to come in as an instructor for those fun things. But I think just having it be more of a community outreach and looking to see if we can bring some of those people in, so that would make the learning more enjoyable. So not quite bribery.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Spencer, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Looking ahead, do you have a plan B in case we don't get enough teachers?
That has been the conversation in the region, actually. We are not bound by class size laws, if you will, for summer. But I do believe that with the incentives that we have in place on the template, that will help. I also think that providing the program for Monday through Thursday, giving the 3-day weekends, I believe that also will be appealing, and not doing the 30 days. 30 days seem to encompass the entire summer. And what we do want to do is be mindful of the fact that we need the emotional wellness of our adults as well as our students. And that does mean some time where they can just have some downtime. And with the COVID restrictions relaxing in some places, parents may want to take their children and do some things this summer or visit some family members. And with that being the case, we wanted to be able to still provide the time where they could do that and still have time to learn as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Spencer?
So Vice Chair Pereza, this is an action item and it needs to be approved so we can submit our plan within the 30-day window, as required by legislation, and that is tomorrow.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Chair Warden, I make a motion that we accept Dr. Spencer's plan for the summer program.
I will second it.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we approve the summer school plan. Tammy, could you do a roll call, please?
Pam Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the end of our report.
Thank you to both of you. And now we're going to move to Dr. Williams, who will take us into closed session. Dr. Williams?
Yes, the board will go into closed session for the purpose of considering personnel actions that involve employees of this board as allowed by NC Statute 143-318-11A6.
Okay, thank you. And I need a second for that and a roll call vote.
Second.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Me.
Thank you. Roll call, Pam Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
and Virginia Houston.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries. The board
Okay,
will-
and we'll go out of here and join with another link. Thank you, everyone.
And the board will resume open session immediately following closed. Thank you.
Hey, Tammy, send me that closed session link again, please.